Alright, we are live. Today I am going to be doing not so much a product review, but let's call it more of a my products that I'm making for this thing review. The weapon in question is going to be a Gear Micro Draco. The profile is largely untouched. Very few people offer work for it. No one really does CAD for it. It's seen kind of as a hood gun, even though I think it probably should be much higher on the list for use cases in this country specifically, even though it's been largely ignored. So I want to go over this today, and then kind of how I use it and how more people should be using it, because it's a good gun, and I'm offering support for this slowly as I'm doing some work, and I'll go over that in a minute too. But let's just go over the initial assessments. This is a 3.7 inch barrel, 7.62, and so just for frame of reference, the velocity and the size of the bullet is about 357, which 357 Magnum for 7.62 prices already is a steal. You can either, it comes with this, you can just take this off. They're gonna make fun of you if you post pictures of it without it, or with it on. And then it comes to you either with a PMag, or you can go online and buy a Palm Beach mag, which I like these more because they're more durable. I'll get to like sizing for these in a minute, but essentially when you get it, it comes with this cute little wood case or handguard here, and sometimes if you're lucky it comes with a flash hider, which we all know what these are. And when you take this to the range, you will quickly learn it's very, very annoying. Outside I don't have any issues. The recoil isn't really that significant in my opinion, but yeah, I mean, it's what they would call, everyone calls it like a range toy or something like that. I disagree, and I've spent a lot of time putting my money where my mouth is, making designs for this thing. So when we take a look right here, you will notice that this gas block here is very small. It's actually so small that it really doesn't need to exist. It does absolutely nothing. And so for any of you out there who own these or have, whatever. If you own one of these, you're probably either going to want to extend the barrel initially. So this is a 5.5 inch extension. Or you're going to want to throw a suppressor on it. For example, oil filters are very popular. So you can buy one of these adapters and thread it into a frame can. Goes on just the same. And yeah, so the initial issue you're going to have with that is the gas on the inside here. If I can get this thing open for you. Has nowhere to go except into here itself, because it doesn't, most of it doesn't come out the front. It kind of builds up here, and so when you do that, you're going to have deformation around the trigger here, and eventually as you're using it, you will notice that the trigger will fly freely. And so you can it'll get to the point where like it will swing around freely, but it will go off because the trigger still works, but it's deformed, and so you can literally just hit it like this and it will fire. And then you have to get a new trigger to get that fixed. That's literally the same part that breaks consistently, so like anyone online who tells you otherwise, like taking it apart, removing out the frames, like that's a lot of extra work. It's a single piece that breaks consistently. Don't turn your wheels. Take it to a gun shop, it'll be $45 to fix. It's just sheet metal. So that kind of limits what you're putting on the front because the gas block is just utterly useless. That said, it's still quite concealable for a 357 two-handed weapon. I know it's technically a pistol. No one uses it as a pistol, and then probably come January 26th, you can all have your cute little SPRs. My issue that I found with it initially was shouldering, and so SB Tactical sells ignoring this side here, it's just this piece here, sells a little buffer tube adapter that you can put and attach to your weapon if you want to throw a brace on it. I had that for a while. I didn't like it so much. I felt like the configuration merited something a little more than just a stock and then a piece of wood. And so I went online for a while and I was able to find essentially a bunch of these. This is a 3D printed handguard for a Draco, but it's a mini Draco, which is a little bit bigger. The micro Draco has a unique problem where it's everything made for it only fits this profile of weapon, the micro. So the mini, the standard Draco, they all share these parts. The micro is the exception because it's a 3.7-inch barrel. You have this little slot here that you can kind of stick something in, and you have screws here. It's one or two. You can pick. That's all you have to work with. And so people don't tend to spend a lot of time on this profile, even though, by the way, this fits perfectly in a briefcase, in a backpack, anywhere you want, and you come out and you have extreme firepower when you need it. I would say it's about equal to probably like a Kel-Tec Sub 2000, where it like folds and sticks in a backpack. Those weapons have very high use cases, practical use cases in inner cities. So like if you're an accountant like me, concealability is your #1 priority because liberal companies are the only ones hiring accountants nowadays. And so you kind of have to keep on the down low, like especially living in a dangerous city. So like I live in Philadelphia, we have a very, very high crime rate. People get robbed every day going to commute, and so you need to be ready for whatever. And so I didn't like that there wasn't a lot of modularity, a lot of options. $250 for essentially this part on, like, let's say SLR rifle works, which, by the way, for machined metal, it's a good deal, but it's machined metal. On a $650 gun, that's not a very good deal. That's like me putting a, $1,000, like a EOTech on a Sub 2000. It's like it's the same price as the gun, or half of it, so what's the point? It just doesn't make sense to me. And so I spent some time working, trying to do my own, I guess, CAD work, and I came up with this here. This is not the final product. This particular model I'm still working on. But this is a 3D printed PLA little handguard, I guess you can call it, and it just slides right in here like this, and then you would just screw at the top here. This is available on my Odyssey for free. I'm gonna have a store opened up at some point, so if you don't own a 3D printer, which is most people, you can just buy them. I'm not gonna charge more than like $40. It's literally plastic, but it does the job. It doesn't break. Yeah, you don't need to be paying $200 for something for a Draco. That's ridiculous. But anyway, it allows you to kind of throw a flashlight or whatever, and then because of the way that the Draco is made, it's really good. You can kind of just hold it at the mag, and so you have all of these options up here for doing things as you're pulling it out here and then doing your aiming. We'll get to the slings in a minute. Second, when I was doing work on this, I was like, well, since I'm holding it on the mag, I wanted to kind of have something more aesthetic, like Rainbow Six style. So I came up with this. This is a Model 2, where I just the CAD here. This one is a little more clean and light. It doesn't need as much infill as this one because it's not load bearing. It's solely cosmetic. I did do some testing, threw it across the room on the ground. It didn't break, but because it's PLA, it is a little rough. Most of the prints are going to be a little rough, but it's an AK, so I would assume most people don't care. But yeah, when it's pinned, I'm not doing it with screws right now. It looks something like this, all right? And so I've gotten the most praise, I think, from this design here. But yeah, so when you're running it on usually like your backpack, it's about the length of a 20-round mag, and so you can kind of keep this profile here all the way across, like this way. And so it does remove a lot of, let's say, backpack issues, because that was one of the issues that I ran in with initially. Like, this is a very, very small profile for a weapon of this caliber. So from there, I started doing a little R&D with AOWs. This is a failed project that I'm abandoning, but essentially, this is all on my Odyssey as well. But I was not able to get this to work. Either the VFG would snap or something else would happen where it would overheat, and then there would be cracks. So this one passed the test, but a dedicated AOW with just this kind of like handguard-esque thing, I wasn't able to figure out, either because the bulking it up, for whatever reason, down here, I didn't have any issues with heat. When you start getting up here, you get a lot of deformation for reasons I don't fully understand. And so the reason that this is so shallow is just because that was as tall as I could get it without heat messing the thing up. And so yeah, this was about double the length. I cut it down several times. It used to go up twice to like here, so it was closer to this guard here, but I couldn't figure it out. It does make sense though, because if you look here, you can see burn marks. This thing gets pretty hot, so. But yeah, the premise that I moved on to next was, okay, I want something that's modular, right? And so when I moved over here, let me just show you really quick. The installation for these is relatively simple, obviously, because all you're doing is just throwing a single M5 by 20 screw. If you order from me, again, the site's not live right now, so if you're watching this in, what's today? December? It'll be December probably, when I upload this video. So it won't exist right then, but I will have it up hopefully soon. I found this guy, what's his name? Otter Industries or something like that, that he had a bunch of stuff for the Kel-Tec Sub 2000, and I was going to list a bunch of stuff for the Kel-Tec Sub 2000 because I love PDWs, specifically like not pistol conversions, like dedicated PDWs like Micro Draco. I do consider the Sub 2000 to be a PDW, even though, because it folds so small, it just feels ridiculous calling it a PCC, and it feels ridiculous calling it anything else. And so I personally would consider that to be on that caliber. Anyway, this is a little loose for this demonstration. It will not be significant. So the Micro Draco piece here, this screw is a little bit smaller, the stock screw I mean, is smaller than an AK, and so if you buy an AK grip, the issue you're going to run into is it will fit, but the screw on the bottom will be too big, and so it'll just kind of, it won't pin, because it's a kind of like a pin design where like the screw itself pushes it into the receiver. And so make sure when you buy these you have a specific Draco little grip. On my website, or on my Odyssey, I have one of these that fits the stock grip, so definitely look into that. But yeah, but what I designed here was essentially a pick rail that goes on the back like a conversion, and then it pins just like this one. Alright, so they should be pretty much identical here, and then it functions the same. The difference is now you can throw a QD mount on it, and you don't have to spend $50, you can spend $15, and then I make money, you get a product that works, it all works. And so it does fit. I removed, this is going to be a bitch and a half, but let me just remove this because I'm going to have to fight with it anyway, and there's no point in, don't lose this piece. This is what your goes into your I think it's a trunnion. But anyway, yeah, it comes here, and then it slides directly on. I did have it on CAD the file that I uploaded was a little bit tighter than this, and so you can't see it on camera because it's that small of a crack, but you can see a little bit. I used a command strip, and I think that worked really well. You can glue it if you want. You have a lot of metal back here. I mean, that's like, it's got to be half an inch, and you're not really having any contact so much. This is like behind the trigger. I would think any adhesive be fine, if you want it to be permanent, which I would assume you would, unless you want to go the metal route, in which case don't use adhesive, use a command strip, which is what I would suggest. But yeah, they come just like this, and then it pins. You need to make sure when you're screwing this on, though, that it lines up. So the way I do this, and whether you have this, you know, here, it's the same principle. You're going to push at the angle that, it's like a V, and then push down there. That way it's aligned on this way, and it's fully cemented here as you're putting pressure and putting the screw back on to here. Alright? That's very important. So I will just do that really quickly here. Not really quickly. This is a very annoying process. But yeah, so I think that this little design here, what I do is I throw a QD mount on it, and then I can have a, let's call it shoulderable, even though it's not. Kind of like a controllable, let's put it that way. Because the Draco itself is very difficult to aim, and so when you have something controllable, and then you also have something like a profile where you can grip the magazine, and then you have something more aesthetic, it does, I think, complete what this profile was intended to do, which is to be a concealable AK. I think that does that very well. Maybe you disagree, but I don't think that it deserves the shit that it gets, because it's, you know, it's a gun. Like it's nothing to sneeze at, but at the same time, like, for something this small, you're getting quite a lot of firepower, and then outside of like your pistol, right? And then you get 30 rounds of it. I think that's a pretty good deal. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, that's pretty much it for that. But yeah, this is, again, like, disassembled. Make sure, when, just for future reference, when you're doing cleaning on this, the trigger will sometimes get fucked up a little bit as you're using it over time. I only clean this every 1,000 rounds, and then I only do deep cleans every 5,000 rounds, and I don't have any reliability issues as long as you use steel cased. Steel is lighter than the brass. When you use brass, for whatever reason, gets a little, it doesn't get as dirty as fast, but it ends up having some issues with extraction because there wasn't built around brass, it was built around steel. But yeah, this is kind of like my work in progress. This fits perfectly in a briefcase, it fits perfectly in backpack, especially with a 20-round magazine. And so I wouldn't suggest pulling a 30, because you might as well just run an AK at that point, or a full-size Draco, and get like that firepower. But yeah, that is my, I guess, take on it. I don't fully know how I'm gonna finish one of the projects that I'm working on, which is gonna be like a full like cage. Again, the issue I'm running into is this thing has no gas block, and so it melts. I suppose I could use nylon, but at that point you might as well just pay for a full like metal, because I'm gonna be charging 120, 150, and you could just pay an extra $50 for a full metal one, so there's no point. So I'm trying to figure that out, and then I'm also working out some other things, like alternative magazines. I'm working on, yeah, I do have some modified versions of this as well, so when I print them they're more stable. I'm working on some braces as well. I do have 2 braces that are fixed on my Odyssey page as well. So they're going to be just like this. They're just as fat too, because I'm not entirely certain how strong the PLA is going to be at this angle here. I haven't had any issues with it using it, but I don't know, you the end consumer, how brutal you are with your guns, like if you're going to throw it across the room or something. Because recoil isn't the issue here, it's end user abuse. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I don't have any testers or anything, and so that's been an issue because most people don't have this profile. But yeah, in addition to that, I am continuing to work on designs, and I'm also continuing to rep this profile because I think it is superior to any other PDW out there. Like I said, 30 rounds, even 20 rounds of 357 is good. It's better than you're probably going to get with a 10mm or anything else, especially in this size. Also, it's an AK. You don't really have to clean it. It's pretty fucking reliable as long as you use correct ammo, which is just use the Russian ammo. But yeah, that is all I have to say about this. If you go in my profile on like the details, my Odyssey link is there. If you have a 3D printer, just download the files. I don't really care, or I would prefer you not to, like, as everyone else in this, like, the CAD community is, like, we offer files for free. I'm assuming at some point some jackass is going to list them behind a paywall. They will always be free on there. I will just be offering products for those of you who do not have printers, and then I'm not going to be charging you a lot for those, so just materials and then the labor, and then of course shipping. And so I'm thinking this will be around like $15-20, and then these will be around probably like $35, and then I'll release sets. This again here, this is a little more material, so maybe I'll charge like $45 for this. But yeah, that's, oh, and then the stocks. The braces I'll probably charge, Jesus, because it's going to have to be 100% infill or you're going to end up breaking them. So I'm thinking maybe $65, which, by the way, this in the metal version is $50-55 usually for SB Tactical. It's also discontinued, my understanding is of that, and so you might not be able to get these soon. And this was specifically made for the Draco. And then these you can get cheap for like $15 with a stock, or you can pay a little more for a nicer one. And so regardless, I will be the cheapest option because, again, it's plastic. I'm not going to charge you for anything superior. It works. It's not going to break on you the first time, but it's not going to last you like on 10,000 rounds without either deformation or something, because it's PLA. And so that will be priced accordingly, of course. Anyway, if you thought this was, if I said anything that was helpful, if you thought this was cool, I'm not very good at talking, as you can tell. It's also kind of late, so I'm a little tired. But yeah, hopefully you guys, I can have more designs out in the future, and then maybe we can build up some videos as well. I can show some performance or use case. I'll be talking about this more in the future, along with the Sub 2000, because I like covert ops, specifically gray man. And when I'm saying gray man, I'm talking about like sweaters. I'm not talking about like cargo pants. Like there's a look now, and so you want to look unassuming, but you also want to look professional, and then have means of defending yourself without sacrificing cut or, you know, whatever the case is for like suits and things. But yeah, alright, hope you guys have a good one.